Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. I am going to talk to Mr. Bob Wheeler today. Bob helps listeners conquer their money shame and avoid making poor financial decisions by teaching how emotions can dictate our choices. And I have experienced this firsthand as well, especially when I was investing in stocks, stock market, futures, and options. It was all emotional driven, right? Every time you see it going up and, you are happy. And if it goes down, you're miserable basically, and you want to get out of the investment. And I'm also mostly investing in real estate, but I'm also investing a lot in cryptos. So I'm going through the same emotional cycle. So I want to understand what Bob has to, bring to the table about the money nerve. So welcome, Bob.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So every guest we ask this question, and maybe you should have a funny story because we spoke about Mount Kilimanjaro and Everest Base Camp. Tell us something interesting or funny about yourself.
I'll tell the story that I told you that I've never told anybody, where we were going to base camp Mount Everest, and we had a very militaristic guy that was our guide.
Right.
And so he asked everybody, who's got Diamox? Who's got Diamox? And he took everybody's Diamox because he was going to have a pure group of people. Nobody was going to take Diamox on the way to base camp. But my friend and I, we hit our Diamox. We had enough. We had enough for 20 people.
Yeah, it's like the weed. Come on.
Yeah, we hit it. It's the weed. So we hit it. And then as we started climbing, we all started feeling it. So my friend and I were dispensing Diamox to everybody else on the group, right? But now our guide thinks that we are drug-free. So he's very proud of us. They happened to be doing a testing. They had a medical team there, and they wanted to test people to see how they were doing with the altitude. And so we were like, okay, sure. And our guide was like, they're going to come out perfect because they're not even on drugs. And I'm sure that the test showed we were all completely drugged up, but we never told him. We never told him we were on the Diamox. So he was very impressed with us. So we lived alive.
Yeah, he must be thinking, this guys are military.
They're amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. So now let's jump into the investment side and the money side. What kind of assets do you invest in?
So I love real estate,
of course, because
even if everything falls apart and it loses all its value, I still have a place to go sit and cry.
Yes, and I think that's true. And remember, the land does not lose value. We don't build land. We can build houses, we can build apartments, but you can't build land, and land is actually eroding.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, real estate, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. So I think that's the best. And then certainly some stocks and mutual funds. I like Vanguard. And then, some stocks. And it goes, of course, as you said, those are emotional purchases.
Yes.
The stocks that I buy, I love Disney, you know. I shop at Amazon, Starbucks. I drink, even if I don't drink coffee, everybody else does.
Right,
so
everybody else.
So those tend to be a little more emotional, but I tend to really like real estate.
Oh, that's awesome. So what was your very first real estate investment?
My first one was I bought a condo for myself. That was an interesting thing because the real estate person was actually advocating for the other person. Because I said, you know what, I think I could get it for $20,000 less. Well, that would be rude. I'm like, well, just offer it. They're like, I'm not going to offer it. And I wanted the place, so I went with it. But that was my first. And then I've had some different rental properties. I've had some nightmare experiences.
Of course. You all do.
Screen the tenants. But I do, at the end of the day, I've bought property. I've sold it for almost double. And at the end of the day, even if you don't sell for double, it's bringing in income. And again, land has value no matter what.
You hit the nail on the point, right? So stocks can turn to zero. Bitcoin can turn to zero, right?
Yep.
And anything can happen. And we have seen that with BlackBerry to, Kodak and a lot of other, big names, right? but the land has value. And second, if someone is paying me to pay my mortgage down, why wouldn't I do that, right? One is you are getting leverage, and second, someone is covering my mortgage payment plus giving me income, right? So I just got to wait for 20, 30 years, that property will appreciate, if there is.
Absolutely. And, I work with a lot of people in entertainment. And so when people come to me and say, I want to buy a house, I always say, buy a duplex, buy a triplex. You get to write off a half or a third of, 2/3 of the expenses when you've got other people involved.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's a great way to get started, is to buy something like a duplex or a triplex. So you've got other people helping you pay the mortgage.
That's very important. Now, I think that's a very sound advice. And the one thing also you mentioned, screen the tenant. I always tell people, first rule of investment, location, location, location.
Yeah.
That's going to attract the tenant pool you want in your house, right?
That's right.
Yeah. If it's a C-class neighborhood, no A-class person is going to stay in that neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. So it's very important to start with the right location and all of that, right property.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the money side. How, and we already mentioned emotions. How do emotions impact financial decision making?
Well, what happens is, and most of it's unconscious, sometimes we're making a decision, we want to impress people. So we don't want them to know that we maybe don't have the money. So let's do the deal. Right. So we're presenting.
That's keeping up with the Joneses. Right?
That's keeping up with the Joneses. Right. And we all get caught up in that sometimes. Yes. We want to be able to say, oh, I'll cover the dinner. It's $1,500. I got this. Or, yeah, I've got this fancy car. Of course, I'm 6 months behind on payment.
Yeah.
Right. So we're trying to present in a way, and social media does this. We're trying to show, look how amazing my life is. Look what amazing food I eat. Look at the amazing trips I take. And it's just a teeny picture.
I'm glad that you brought up social media. It's all fake. It's a lie. Come on. Yeah. People need to realize, stop watching all this, that this guy went to vacation and shared like 100 pictures.
Yeah.
Did they actually enjoy that vacation, or they weren't even, the husband and wives were not even talking while they were on vacation?
Well, and I see people on vacation and all they're doing is taking pictures. I'm like, are you having any fun?
Yes.
So, but yeah, I think that social media does play a big role in people thinking that they need to do it different, or to keep up, or to have a good optic. But, it also plays a real role. I mean, when I was first getting started, I drove a Toyota Corolla from a pickup truck, and I was happy with both of those.
Right.
But I had wealthy clients, and somebody said, could you stop driving crappy cars?
That could happen.
And I said, nobody cares. I asked all of my wealthy clients, do you care if I drive a Toyota Corolla or a Mercedes or a Lexus? They said, if you're not driving a better car than me, I don't want you as an accountant. And I couldn't believe that. It made a difference. Yes. I went out and got the fancy car.
I heard that. Yeah. Think about realtors. They always have to ride nice cars, and they have to actually take the clients with them, right? So yeah, there are certain professions, and even I ended up, I was driving a Honda Accord and I was okay with it. I don't care. But I ended up buying a Tesla because, I thought it has to look a little good. Of course, I didn't want the best car out there, but I wanted a good car.
But even with that, I mean, I'll tell you the other side, emotions play. When I had the nice car, I would hide it when I would get people to come and give me a bid on repairs. Because I didn't want them to add in the extra money because I'm driving a fancy car.
Yeah, because this guy can afford it, right?
He can afford it. Add another 1,000.
Yeah. No, that's true. So both side emotions play.
Yeah.
As well. And also, I think emotions play as well when you are trying to buy a stock, as you said, or a real estate. Same way when you're trying to sell as well, right?
Oh, yeah. And look, real estate, man, it is mentally excruciating. They're looking at your bank statements. They're checking out your employment. Yeah. They're asking you all kinds of questions from 10 years ago. They're pouring through all of your stuff, and you don't know if you're going to get the loan or not. I mean, they said you were going to get it. And so that escrow period is so incredibly mentally exhausting because you're on pins and needles until they fund the money.
I agree. And same when I was doing stock, right? I'm buying, as you said, on emotional decision, as well as if it goes down, I'll sell it at the worst possible time because it's all emotions.
Yeah, I think with the stock market, everybody's trying to hit it at the peak, but you're never going to hit it at the peak because by the time it's peaked, you missed it.
By the time it's already done, right? By the time you see it in the media, it's gone. Like right now, I was going to invest in Austin market about 4 years ago. I did not, because I still felt that it was too high. Now I have a lot of friends that reach out to me. Can we invest in Austin? Because we are seeing in news and everyone is moving to Austin. I'm like, you're too late.
Way too late.
It's done. You should not invest in Austin or anywhere, right? In Texas markets or wherever people are moving after you hear it on news media.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Ship has sailed.
Yep. So another thing I was reading about your bio is the financial therapy. What is it, and why do we need a financial therapy?
Well, financial therapy, the thing is, most of us are really unconscious about our money beliefs and money choices. And so if money therapy helps us to get, financial therapy helps us to get more aware of the choices we're making unconsciously. I've had clients who quit their job and took another job because they were going to have to do public speaking, right? They're going to have to lead a management meeting. And instead of just saying, I'm not comfortable speaking, they didn't want anybody to know. They just quit the job and got another job.
Yes.
Right. And so we make these decisions. A lot of people are very uncomfortable being successful. And so they might financially self-sabotage so that people aren't jealous of them. Their family members aren't asking them for loans. I knew a guy that won the lottery and won millions and millions of dollars. And he lost all of his friends because every time he'd show up, people would say, oh, I have a business idea. Yeah. Hey, you've got money. Why can't you buy my kid a really nice gift? Because, you've got the money. And it all became about the money, and he couldn't actually enjoy his friends. And so when you start to get aware of all those things so that you can at least meet it head on, or learn to have a boundary, or tell people no, or just say, yeah, I can't afford that. Like most people would be mortified to say, I can't afford to have another round of drinks with everybody. I'm going to call it quits.
I agree. I could relate to some of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about relationship. What's a healthy relationship with money?
So I think learning to live within your means, learning to do what you want to do within your budget, whatever your income level is. I know people that make $20,000, $30,000 a year, and they're incredibly happy. And even in LA, I see people and I think, how do you live off of that? And they're incredibly happy. I think one of the things that happens in the US, and we talked about being in other countries, and one of the things that I've learned by being in developing countries is there's a lot more appreciation. There's a lot more gratitude.
Yes.
And they see the abundance and they appreciate the little things. And I think in this country, we're running around going, I don't have the newest cell phone.
Exactly.
My coffee doesn't have goat milk,
Yeah. I'm like, these are first world problems, right? We want instant gratification.
We want instant. We do. And, I was recently in Africa and in Zimbabwe. They're grateful to have a bucket of water to take a
Zimbabwe.
shower.
Oh, crazy.
It's rough there. And, we're all like, oh, my water wasn't hot. Hey, How about you get a bucket of water and a sponge once a week?
Yes.
I'm grateful for any water that comes out of the shower. Yeah. So I think learning to look at things and actually see the abundance, learn to come from a place of gratitude, and really learn to live within your means and realize you don't have to have the fanciest car. Just needs to get you from A to B.
Right.
You don't need to have lobster every night. You need food to sustain yourself. That clean water. So for me, it's learning you don't have to be a billionaire to have an incredible, wealthy life.
I agree. And it reminded me of a story which I heard on a podcast. It's not my story. That there is another person who works in entertainment like you, actually, but with a lot of entertainment client. And he was talking about a client who is a multimillionaire, like crazy amount of money. And he was upset that he could not buy another plane. Right. And he was literally upset and he was so angry. I'm like, okay, so this is the, kind of things that we compare ourselves to. Oh, this guy has 5 planes. I got to have those. I want the best of the best. And then, as you said, even someone making 20, 30 grand a year could be happier than the multimillionaire down the road.
Yeah. And, we set the benchmark so ridiculous. I remember a story of two brothers that own a couple of public companies. And the one brother felt he was a complete failure because his brother had 4 jets and he only had one.
Yeah.
And it's people.
Yeah.
You're doing okay. You're not going to go hungry tomorrow.
Yeah, that's very important. You got the roof, you got clothes, you got food and water. What else do you need?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I've had a couple of people say to me, my life is miserable right now. I'm not living in the 4-bedroom house I wanted. I said, as long as you're eating and breathing, you have the opportunity to make it different. So the situation you're in right now is probably temporary. I know people that have gone from 0 to millions. I know people that have gone from millions to nothing. Everything changes. You don't get to lock in place and never move. That's not life.
Yeah, that's not life. There is no challenge, right? And then you, of course, get bored. But no, this is great. I also remember that you wrote the book, The Money Nerve. What is it about?
So The Money Nerve is really about navigating the emotions around money. And basically, a lot of my tax clients, when I would have tax meetings, they would turn into therapy sessions. When I work with a lot of creative folks, so there was a lot of shame and people were expressing how disappointed their families were in them because they chose their passion over profit. Right. And what I was aware of, and my own personal story too, I was trying to present a certain way and wasn't handling my finances so great and was having to do a look at my own personal inventory. And I wrote the book because I wanted people to know that they weren't alone in their financial lack of literacy, so to speak, and that there's no shame. And, we do things, we make mistakes. Yep. There's no shame in that. We pick up and we move forward. We learn from our mistakes.
That's the key, right? That's what humans do.
Yeah.
You make mistakes, you learn from them. And that is what is called experience, right?
That's right.
You don't get experience just by sitting there and reading a book or listening to this podcast, right? You got to do it and you learn it from it.
That's right. So I have lots of experience.
Oh, I can tell.
Lots of mistakes.
From base camp to real estate to accounting. So how do you work with your clients now? What do you do when a new client comes to you? How does it work?
So it happens a couple different ways. So some people initially come to me traditionally, need help with their taxes. And I'm known for working with entrepreneurs, mostly in the entertainment business, but a lot of other industry, manufacturing, things like that. So people will either come to me that way initially, and then they'll start to say, wait a minute, you're a little different than other people. You're bringing in other components that most people don't bring up. And so that's one way. And then another way is people do come to me specifically to work through financial blocks and self-sabotage, or they want to open a business, or they have some goal and they'll come to me so that we can work through where are the places that we're sabotaging, what's holding you back. And then that's more of a therapy session that we go through over a period of time.
Got it. And we spoke about Mount Kilimanjaro as well. What happened in Africa that changed your belief around money?
So when I was in Africa, it was talking about how people are happy. What happened for me was I was in Tanzania, where the average income at the time was $100 a year per person.
Okay. Wow.
100. That's not a lot of money. These people were incredibly happy. They would have given me the shirt off their back. They would have bought me a Coke. They were so happy. And I kept looking at them thinking, what's wrong with you people? What is wrong with you people? How can you be happy? Don't you know you should not be happy?
Right.
You don't have material things. And so it really messed with me because I had been so conditioned to think that happiness is in having a luxury car, having a house.
Big house,
getting to travel. And I could see how happy they were. It just really messed with me. And it was a great shift for me because it's what took me to the place of learning to come from a place of gratitude, learning to be a lot more humble. And it was really a beautiful thing to just see that even with what we in the West deemed as not much, they deemed themselves to be very abundant and wealthy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can, as I said, I can totally relate even. And coming from a humble background, moving here to the US and seeing how it changed. And even I get into material things. And sometimes I think about it. I'm like, this should be immaterial in my life.
That's right. That's right. I like that. I like that.
Oh, that's great. So you are, and I also read about some of your bio as well. You are a finance expert. I can tell tax and money, and you work with entertainment industry. How and why did you get involved in the comedy and become, I think, CFO of the world famous comedy store? Is that correct?
So that is correct. So I was actually doing stand-up comedy.
Okay, you and I need to jam together now.
All right.
I love stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy is amazing. I love comedy. I was doing stand-up comedy, obviously, so I could pay the bills. The accounting was just something to do for fun. And basically all my friends were comics, and the comedy store was having some financial struggles back in the day. And Mitzi called me up and she's like, you got to help me out. We're in trouble. And I jumped in and just got involved with the store and been with it ever since. I love comedy. I love comics. I love watching people laugh. I love making people laugh. I think we all need to laugh a little more.
Oh, we got to laugh a lot all the time.
Especially now.
Yeah. Now especially last couple of years, last year and this year, we got to open up. We got to laugh a lot, enjoy whatever we have. Yeah. And I think maybe that also last year and this year a lot, it has opened a lot of people's eyes, right?
Yeah.
We have everything we need, right? I mean, we can order food. We can have delivery service, deliver our groceries. We don't even have to go out, right? So,
I think what was interesting for a lot of my clients, they're used to bringing in $100,000, $200,000 a month, and all of a sudden everything dried up, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so the first month, everybody was, we're going to go out of business. We're going to lose our house. We're going to, 6, 7 months later, they're saying, oh my gosh, we're doing okay. We're not going out to dinner. So we're saving money.
Exactly.
And they realized they could actually make it.
Yeah. I actually told my friends, and we were discussing, they're like, oh, the grocery prices have gone up. Gas prices are going up. I'm like, do you drive? Do you commute anymore? No, you are saving $300, $400 a month just on the commute.
Yeah.
Going out, as you said, a lot of money saved. Just thinking about the after school costs for people like me with kids. Right. That's another $1,000 a month saved for 2 kids, right? Same thing. You are going out, you are traveling a lot. Even a day trip to Tahoe would cost me $1,000, right? We didn't even go out. So I was telling them that just grocery prices went up. That you need, but everything else you are actually saving money and working from home.
Exactly. And probably not even working 8 hours.
You're actually working 10 hours, but you are doing other things too.
Exactly.
No, this is great. The last question I have before we take the break is, what do you think of the stock market, real estate, and cryptocurrencies right now? Because everything is too frothy.
Look, I think the stock market for me is just another form of gambling.
Yes, it is.
And if you aren't willing to lose the money, you shouldn't be investing in it. Like, you have to be willing to lose the money.
That's the exact same thing I tell everyone about cryptos and stock market, that you only invest what you are willing to lose.
That's right.
If the investment doesn't let you sleep, then I think you invested way more than you should have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for me, I think it's a time to be really cautious. Cash is king, I think, right now. And so I think it's important to hold on to your cash unless you've got excess cash that you're willing to burn. I kept expecting the stock market and the housing market to crash.
Me too. Last couple of years.
Here's the thing. Eventually, I will be right.
Yes, but when, we don't know, right?
When? It could be 30 years from now.
Yes, yeah. A broken clock is also right twice a day, right?
That's exactly right. I like that.
No, this is great. So thank you so much, Bob. Let's take a quick break. And after the break, we'll go to the same questions I ask everyone.
Okay, sounds good.
You're listening to the Wealth Matters Podcast. The Wealth Matters Podcast. For more info about what we do, check us out at wealthmatters.com. It's wealth, WEALTH, matters, MATRS.com.
Welcome back to Wealth Matters Podcast. Bob gave pretty good idea about the money nerve, how money impacts our decision making. So I highly recommend you go through this episode one more time and read his book, The Money Nerve. Bob, are you ready for fire round?
I'm ready. Let's make it happen.
Let's go. Would you be changing any business or investment strategy after coronavirus is over?
If real estate goes down, yes, I'll be buying more real estate.
For sure. Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book other than yours or mine?
I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Of course. 90% of my guests have said that, and me too, including because that's what changed my mindset. Yeah.
It's solid.
That's a good starting or beginner book. That's where I recommend everyone get started. Any tool or website you recommend or you use it all the time?
A website for
finances, money, etc. Reinvestments.
I don't use a website. I call people. I have people I can call. I go, what do I do?
That's the best way though.
Yeah.
Any advice for beginner investors?
Well, it goes back to what we said before. Don't invest in anything you're not willing to lose. And I think start small. Don't just go, I'm going to buy $100,000 worth of Amazon, and know the rules. Know the rules. Here's what's happened to me a couple of times. I had a client come in, they had $1 million capital gain, and I noticed it was one day shy of being a long-term capital gain. Now, they've been trading for years.
Right.
So I said to them, I hate to be dumb, but why did you sell that on that date? They said, what do you mean? I said, well, because if it held it one more day, your tax
15%.
Rate would have dropped. They said, what? And I said, you've been investing for 15 years and you never knew this? They said, I never knew. So know the rules. This last year, so many people didn't understand wash sales. So I've got people with all kinds of gains that they were not planning on paying on.
Wow. You got to know. So that tax is the other side of investment. You can make as much as money as you want, but if you are going to give 50% of that to Uncle Sam, then you better not even try. Yeah. So that's why I took tax courses. I read Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, of course. And then I took his courses just to learn about taxes. And a real story, just this year, one of the investors who was going to invest with me in a senior housing facility backed out because he had sold $500,000 worth of stocks and didn't know that he's going to have tax liabilities. This was not even short term, it's long term. He's like, now I got a tax bill of $100,000. I'm like, on top of everything I paid. I'm like, of course, you should have told me. Then he called me like a week before. He had 180 days because I could have helped him invest in Opportunity Zone Fund to defer some of those taxes. He called me a week before, and I said, that's not possible. The year has passed. It was 2020. Yeah. And you are already 180 days, only 6 days left. There was nothing we could do. And I just felt bad, but that's what it is. So as you said, you got to know the rules. You have to know how to play this game.
You got to know how to play the game.
or work with people like you or I who knows the game, right?
No, absolutely. The whole reason to learn the rules is so that you can bend them, but you got to know them to bend them.
Yeah, and then don't complain that Trump or Buffett do not pay taxes because they know the rules and they know how to work with those.
I would have done the same thing.
Exactly, right? So the last question, how do you give back?
How do I give back? I do volunteer work for people. I met somebody through a podcast. I'm going to do some work with inmates and do talking. Nice. I've done workshops for free or little money. I think the biggest part of having wealth or having financial success is being of service and giving back. I think that's why we're all here. And if you're not being of service, if you're not giving back, you're not fully showing up.
Right. No, I agree. And this is what we are doing right now is giving our time, you and I, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very important. How can my listeners reach out to you?
They can go to themoneynerve.com, and that's nerve, not nerd, Nerve. I'm a nerd. Yes. Themoneynerve.com. It's got my podcast. It's got my book. It's got tools, resources, and you can reach out to me through that. We love chatting with people, helping people, and supporting and cheering people on.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Bob. It was nice chatting with you.
Thanks so much. It's great talking to you.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing.